going on, guys? Thanks for tuning in to another episode of the Red Gold Standard podcast. My name is Zach Hernandez, and as always, I am joined by my co-host Matt Llewellyn and our guy Mike Andrews of Nothing But Niners. We're here to preview the 49ers Week 4 matchup versus the Arizona Cardinals tomorrow. Before we do, if you're tuning in on Twitter, head over to youtube.com/49ers Hive and join from there so we can see and interact with your comments. We're not ignoring you on Twitter. We just can't see them. Scrolling across the bottom of your screen, youtube.com/49ers Hive. And hey, while you're there, hit like, hit subscribe, show a little love. You never know what the algorithm needs, and it helps more than you think. So hit like, hit subscribe while you're here. Now they got all that out of the way. Matt, how you doing this evening?
I'm doing pretty good, Zach. Got to see my nephew play some Pop Warner football, and that got me directly in the mood to watch the 49ers pop some Cardinal ass tomorrow. So let's go. Let's get it done. Let's start previewing this thing because I couldn't be more excited to get to the game.
All right. Mike, how you doing?
I am well, man. Had a great weekend so far. Was out last night. Got to see Wu-Tang and Nas and De La Soul and Talib Kweli. Oh, man. Had a great time in Atlantic City, and I'm going to continue to carry that energy to the rest of the weekend. And I'm ready to watch the 49ers go out there and take care of some business.
That's what's up, man. I'm glad. All right, guys. It's going to be a fun show. I am going to the game tomorrow kind of unexpectedly. My girl got some tickets for her birthday, so hyped for this. Whatever thoughts you guys have, whatever questions you have, please throw them in the chat. We'd love to answer them and love to hear your guys' thoughts. So obviously, guys, the 49ers go into tomorrow huge favorites. I believe they're something like 14-point favorites, depending on which sportsbook you're looking at. How confident are you guys that the 49ers can – maybe I should save this question for later, but just real quick, are you expecting a big win from the 49ers tomorrow? We'll start with that. Matt?
I hope for a big win. I expect them to win, but divisional games are always weird. And I think that, we talked about it, that if the Cardinals hadn't beaten the Cowboys, then this could have been a game that the 49ers easily could have overlooked trying to get to Dallas. But because Arizona went out there and just whipped the Cowboys from beginning to end, I think that actually put the spotlight onto them and actually will focus this team to come out and be a little more sharp than they otherwise would. You don't want to necessarily rely on that extrinsic motivation to get you up for an NFL game because it's always any given Sunday. But I think that it's very important that the 49ers come into this game focused and not overlook a divisional opponent that could be tough. So I would expect them, to really come out and get a win. Might not be, I think the 49ers were favored by 10 to open. It might not be something like that, but it should be a fairly comfortable victory.
Yeah, when I was thinking about this going into today's show, I got nightmare flashbacks of going to the Cardinals home game against Cardinals at home in 2021, where they got absolutely destroyed by Colt McCoy.
Yep, the Colt McCoy special.
All the backups. I mean, I think looking back on it, the good thing was that kind of whooped the 49ers into shape, and they won like a ton of games after that straight. But yeah, 14 points is a lot, Mike. What's your take on this? Can they really cover a 14-point spread?
It sounds silly to say no, they can't when they have beat all of their opponents so far that way, right? I mean, minus the Rams, right? The Rams had, I think we won by 7 when it's all said and done because of that.
Yeah, that was that
right?
BS. Yeah, that was that cover the spread field goal at the end, yeah.
But, the truth of the matter is, I think that this Cardinals team may be a bit more competitive than all 3 of the opponents that the 49ers faced. And I did check. It is still 14 points, actually. And I think that is kind of insane. I really, really do. But I think that what they're looking at is the Niners' time to prepare. We're coming off of the extended week versus the Cardinals coming off the full week, the standard week. So I just don't know, man. Maybe the Cardinals are riding a high of, beating the Cowboys, and maybe they kind of come in too hyped up and the Niners take advantage of them. But I also feel like Kyle Shanahan is the type to play down to the level of competition, and blowout should not be expected. I know we're all really excited about the 30 points every game, but when you break it down, it's 3 touchdowns, 3 field goals, right? And the team is saying that they're frustrated settling for field goals. There's no reason for us to pretend that trend won't continue. 14 points is a lot if you're going to lay money on it. I say avoid the spread. Just take the money line and pick the Niners outright. You won't get as big of a payout, but it's close to a guarantee as you can get.
By the way, we got a super chat from our guy Gray Fox 198. Best 49ers pod is back. Devontae Adams wants out of Las Vegas. Would you trade for him? I wouldn't hesitate. Thank you for the contribution, Gray Fox. I wouldn't, but that's just me. I mean, where are you finding room to fit Devontae Adams here? Not like he wouldn't help, but there's already a ton of mouths to feed, and the 49ers aren't passing 50 times a game. So, in my honest opinion, no. I don't know if you guys want to weigh in on this before we get back to the Cardinals game, but
too many weapons, too many balls to throw around to different players. And he's got a big contract, and I'd rather focus on trying to re-sign Brandon Ayuk and the people we got in the building rather than just trying to play Madden GM and just try to acquire all the talent that you can for no particular reason whatsoever.
What's interesting is that Devontae Adams seems hell-bent on winning. He's still getting the production. He's still getting the targets. And I know this painfully because I was against him last week in fantasy. And he still put up hella points. He had an amazing amount of targets, great amount of receptions, got the only 2 touchdowns in the whole game, right? Like, so he's still producing. But with him, he's talking about the culture. When you listen to his complaining and things like that, it's like, we're just not doing things the right way here. And that's a problem that is running through that organization right now. So would him coming here silence some of his concerns? Well, maybe this is a winning culture, but when it's all said and done, he would be a piece, not the piece. And I think that would bother him more than the winning and the losing. So I just don't think it's a good fit for him to come here. Not that he wouldn't be productive here, not that we couldn't use him, but he would be a piece, and I don't think that's what he's looking for. I think he wants to be the guy and be winning football games, and that's not a combination he's going to find here in San Francisco.
Now, what would be interesting is if the 49ers had some inside scoop and knew for a matter of fact, no matter what, Brandon Ayuk is not re-signing after his contract's up, then maybe it would make a little more sense. But I think Brandon Ayuk clearly takes priority getting him re-signed than trading for a superstar, let alone a superstar receiver. So I think all of us would pass on that. He is a hell of a talent, though. Really, really unfortunate what's going on with him in Vegas.
And it's about what you have to give up to get him, too. It's not like the Raiders would give him away for free. Yeah. So you're going to pay a certain amount of price, whether that's players or picks or whatever the case may be. And then you have that big contract and all the other things. If it was just in a dream scenario, do I think Devontae Adams would be helpful for the 49ers? Sure. But unfortunately, the logistics are all a part of it. So I think we can all agree that it's not an area of imminent need for the 49ers. And if they were to make a move, I'd hope it would be at a position where we needed a lot more help.
Yeah, exactly. All right, so let's get back to this Cardinals game. Ronnie33 says their win over Dallas did us a favor to take them serious. I think they would have prepared for them seriously either way. The Cardinals typically play the 49ers tough, aside from in Mexico City last year. I mean, I forget who started that Week 17 game last year, but I mean, they were playing pretty hard up until maybe the first half. Then the 49ers pulled away. I remember that trick play to AJ Green. OPI didn't get called, is what it is. I remember everything. But last week, I mean, they've been in every game, right? Like week 1 at Washington, they lost that 20-16. And I know I'm not the only one who thought they were going to be the worst team entering the year back in September. They were the worst team in the league. Week 2 versus the Giants, they were up like 20-0 before the Giants had this historic comeback. The Giants won that game 31-28. And then last week they beat Dallas 28-16. So it's pretty impressive what this team has been able to do, especially considering they traded for Josh Dobbs in like August, like a month before the season started. They went and acquired Josh Dobbs. I saw he posted a TikTok. He couldn't even buy his own jersey at the team store. He wasn't even in the team's roster according to the team store. So I don't know. I was giving Jonathan Gannon, is Jonathan Gannon? Yeah, a lot of shit going into the season, thinking he was a total cornball. I might be eating my words here, guys.
Especially after that one speech, right?
Yeah.
How many of you drove here? How many of you took the bus? Like, what are you talking about, man?
Yeah.
But yeah, they're playing hard for him. It's interesting to see. Is it like a real thing, or have the teams they played just been a little bit underwhelming so far? Yeah. I guess we'll find out tomorrow.
Yeah. Josue, what's going to be at 225, section 225. Go ahead, Mike.
Jonathan Gannon is a clown. He is a fucking clown. He pissed me off. Like I have no respect for this guy.
Zoom.
Well, let me tell you where
get the graphic ready.
Let me tell you where he lost respect from me from, right? Forget the corny speech. Some guys just aren't rah-rah guys. I can accept that, right? I don't expect you to go out there and do anything. One, Philly fans celebrated when your bum ass left town. They literally celebrated. I know because I live out here. They were happy to see him go. They hated him out here. Cool, but let push that to the side, right? You get your first win of the season after 2 hard-fought games. You take a team's double away. I mean, the undefeated record. You knock it off. This is one of the teams that was expected to be one of the favorites coming out of the NFC. Your team fights hard. They go through it all. They give you a shower with Gatorade, and you're pushing players off of you to the point that the players had to be asked about it at the presser, and they were like, yeah, he didn't like it, but oh well, he'll get over it. Who the fuck are you? Like, what have you earned already that you have that right to this is an emotional game. These guys are physically putting their livelihoods, their physical well-being on the line, and they want to celebrate with you, and you're pushing them off. You're putting forearms to the chest of grown men in pads saying, no, don't touch me. You can't do that kind of shit on camera, dude. You want these guys to play hard for you. Your job depends on what they do on the field, and that's how you react after a win. Kiss my ass, man. You're a trash ass coach. Gannon is not going to last long at all. Fuck him. Hated seeing that shit.
No, I totally get it. I thought that was a weird thing to do, a weird flex, considering that, he's not even the one on the field in terms of like in the trenches going to war, and he's the one that's pushing his players away. You're right. It's not going to engender him much respect in that locker room. And the fact that they were like, oh well, he'll get over it. Man, you're already halfway to losing your locker room if your players are like, we don't care. He'll just have to deal with it. That doesn't. Do you think players would tell Bill Belichick that? Do you think 49ers would be telling Kyle Shanahan that? There's a certain culture that you bring in with yourself. And honestly, like, even if he didn't like it in that moment with such a win, you want to keep the feelings riding high, right? Like, you want to celebrate that win in terms. Yeah, no, you didn't win a playoff game or a Super Bowl or anything like that, but it's a positive after 2 really tough weeks, right? And instead of going into the locker room with those good feelings, immediately he just cuts it off at the knees. Yeah, I'm kind of with you, Mike. I don't agree with that. And maybe that ends up costing the Cardinals big. Maybe this week they just come out and they're the ones that are flat and they just get boat raced right from the jump. Anything could happen, but that's the type of thing that, we heard that early last season with Jacksonville and Urban Meyer, or the year before, I'm sorry, where it was little things, right? Where you would just hear and players would be like, yeah, but again, more and more would come out. And I think it's interesting, Mike, you being in Philly, that Philadelphia celebrated a guy whose defense got them to a Super Bowl. They're celebrating him leaving. So it's going to be interesting to watch that over the course. It's a weird thing, man, to just completely, you get that, again, that weird speech, and then you go into this. Does this man have no joy? Like, what are you playing for, right? Like, the ultimate goal is a Super Bowl, but if you can't have fun on the way there, like, what's the point?
It's definitely interesting. DeMarcus Elliott says Gannon looks like the bald dude from Practical Jokers. Murr, yeah, I think he looks like a Whoville character or something come to life, like from one of those Dr. Seuss books. Like, I think that's exactly what he looks like. But all right, so let me ask you guys this. I've been able to watch a good amount of the Cardinals Cowboys game from last week. The 49ers clearly they benefited from those teams playing each other. They play the Cardinals this week, Cowboys next week, so they're watch both of them regardless. But last week's game, do you think that said more about this Cardinals team or that Cowboys team, how it went down, the Cardinals beating them in an upset? Because the Cowboys were favored, I want to say, by 14 points or something like that as well going into the game. Who would you say that says more about?
I think it was a mix of both, honestly. I think that Arizona was a little hungry for a win after 2 tough losses, particularly after blowing that early lead to the Giants, who were also a playoff team last year. It gave them the confidence to look and go, look, we're right in this. We can play with these guys or whatever. And then I think Dallas is Dallas, and you punch them in the mouth and they don't like it. and they fall behind. And Dallas is one of the biggest front running teams that I've seen in terms of when since Dak Prescott and that this whole group has kind of gotten there. They seem to be really front runners. That they don't have a lot of mental toughness. These Cowboy teams remind me a lot of Mike McCarthy's Packers teams, right? They get out, they can boat race you on any given day, but if anybody gives you pushback, all of a sudden it starts to crumble and fingers start getting pointed and bad plays are being made left and right. You're leaving a lot of stuff on the field. They're not disciplined. I remember Mike McCarthy was trying to sell himself as an analytics guy. He's clearly not. He never has been. And it just looks like yet another Dallas Cowboys team that'll win 10, 11 games, make the playoffs, and then somebody physical is going to come along and big brother them right out of the whole thing. So I think it was a little bit of both.
While I agree with Matt, it is both. I believe the question was, which team did it tell us more about, right? Because I just gave you my whole rant about the Cardinals head coach. It told me that he cares more about his draft position than he does about wins and losses. He wants to get the L's, but also analyze the players. All right, we're going to go out here. We're going to play hard for a first half, and then we're going to just tuck tail and get out of there, right, with the loss. But good job, good effort. Let's go home with the L. Let's get this early draft pick, Caleb Williams. Let's go. I have no ties to Kyler Murray, right? But it also spoke about the players and their will to win and them not wanting to be losers. You get there's a ton of messages there. And you flip it to the Cowboys side, and what I still see about them is that they are the same young, inexperienced team. They have some veteran coaches and everything, but that team is so emotional. It tells me that the coaching it's not sinking in. There's something about the cachet of the Dallas Cowboys that you become a superstar the moment you get there, right? Any wide receiver that wears number 88, Michael Irvin does this whole ceremony for giving it away. Dude, it's not special. Every quarterback they draft, wide receiver they draft, they give the number 88 to. It's no longer special anymore, my man. So I'm not really worried about that. And the Cowboys had the benefit of playing against a Gannon-led defense for how many years, and you still couldn't take advantage of it? What are you doing? What are you doing? So it told us a lot about both teams, but I'm gonna give the edge to the Cowboys. It just speaks to how frail they really are. You get the national media hype and everything, you start smelling yourselves, and then you come in there and you put up a lackluster performance in a game that you should have won by double digits. That tells me that you guys are young, you're reading the press clippings, you're smelling yourself instead of feeling yourself, and there's a big difference.
Agreed, 100%. And throwback, thank you for commenting this, because I meant to bring this up. Jonathan Gannon knows Dallas. And Mike, you just kind of mentioned this in yours. On the flip end, Dallas knows Jonathan Gannon. 49ers know Dallas. We're familiar with their tendencies. This is like, DeMeco Ryans and the Texans playing the Rams this year, and the Rams having success, and the Texans having success. Well, no shit. DeMeco Ryans has just coached against the Rams for the past how many years? Jonathan Gannon knows Dallas. He played against them while he was the DC in Philly. It makes sense that he was prepared for this team. I think he's going to be in for a completely different story tomorrow versus the 49ers. And the Cowboys, I agree with Mike there. I think last week that game told us a little more about the Cowboys, because week one, they, demolished the Giants, which are looking pretty fucking shitty this year. Demolished the Jets with Zach Wilson, and then lose to Joshua Dobbs and the Cardinals. And everybody's crowning them the best team in the NFC, one of the best top three teams in the NFL. Let's hold your horses, because I get you can only play who's on your schedule, but they're not exactly screaming elite cream of the crop here, guys. Like, let's calm down. So just crazy what happened. 49ers wins the game supposed to win. Go ahead, Mike.
To piggyback on what you just said, right? The Cowboys say, "Oh, we're 2-0, division team, big win, goose egg in week one," and then we go out there and we beat up on the Jets, and look at what we did, right? And you listen to what Kyle said about the Cardinals. He said, for all intents and purposes, that team should be 3-0. They fought hard. If it weren't for, this monumental comeback by the Giants, 23 unanswered points, they win that game also. And then they were right there with Washington. They could have gone down there. If it weren't for untimely turnovers down the stretch, they would have won that game as well, right? Kyle's mentality is they're 3-0. He looks at every opponent and says they're better than what than what they appear to be on paper, where the Cowboys were just like, oh, look at us, we won. Look at us, we won, right? Oh, we only allowed 10 points to opposing teams in 2 games combined, right? They're, oh, we got this number 1 defense. They're comparing us to the 2000 Ravens and the 83, they're 85 Bears. Like, they're saying all this stuff to themselves, right? Where Kyle is the exact opposite. Right, Kyle would have talked to this team after if we beat those 2 opponents that the Cowboys had the same exact way. Kyle would have said, "Guys, it was a torrential downpour. We lost week 1 to the Bears in a torrential downpour. We know that doesn't mean anything. Don't let that 40-0 go to your head." And then week 2, he would have said, "Guys, they lost their starting quarterback in the opening drive. We were just in the NFC Championship game and lost our starting quarterback in the opening drive. That means nothing. Do not let those 2 games define you. Don't go out there thinking we've accomplished shit because we haven't yet." So no, we're not that. The Cowboys don't think that way. The Cowboys' young, inexperienced players don't think that way, and it's evident.
Yeah. Not only that, but Kyle Shanahan has had so far as his quarterback is healthy, or Brock Purdy, because I guess that kind of is a different story, but he's had all of this regular season success. So this means nothing to him. It's like what happens in January is what actually is meaningful. So let's just stack these wins now. Yes, of course, it's important, but I don't give a shit if you beat up on, the Jets week 2, whatever the hell the score was. Can you do it in January? So I think that's what the mentality Kyle Shanahan and a lot of these players, save for a few of the rookies, have been on this team for these long extended postseason runs. And I think they're finally mentally, in that mindset of, okay, yes, it's a marathon. It's not a sprint. It's a marathon. And yes, it's important now, but it's more important that we're still playing at this level come week 16, 17 and postseason. All right, guys. Go ahead, Mike.
I just wanted to say there was this comment here from Pure Dubs. Yeah, I want to be very clear. I said I don't know which portion of what show he got this from, but I said Daniel Jones is more physically gifted than Brock Purdy. I stand on that. He's bigger, runs faster, throws the ball further. Okay. And then if you're talking about the face-off show that we did with Wayne, I completely expected the Niners to get out to an early lead, start running the ball later in the second half while Daniel Jones had to throw. So I did predict Daniel Jones to have better stats than Purdy going into that game. So be very clear what I'm saying. And nowhere did I say that he was a better quarterback, but physically he is a better specimen than Brock Purdy.
All right. Matt, do you have anything to add here? Or
I agree with both of you guys. I think it especially poignant when Mike points out that Kyle Shanahan's the type of guy that expects everybody to give the 49ers their best effort, their best game, their best performance, whereas Dallas is more looking on the inside. Well, we're just that much better than everybody else. I completely agree with that. And it's what has allowed Kyle to kind of get some of these victories that on paper look like they shouldn't, right? The ones that where it's like, yeah, they are down to Brock Purdy or yeah, they are starting Jimmy Garoppolo, who, by the way, looks absolutely terrible with the Raiders, right? It looks like that Kyle Shanahan was actually propping Jimmy Garoppolo up and making him play better just by making the scheme so simple. He does a lot. I mean, Kyle, besides being just a 49ers fan and wanting them to win the Super Bowl, I'm so curious what winning a Super Bowl would do to Kyle Shanahan's persona in the moment, right? Does he let the guard down and actually be happy? Because he's very rarely effusive and happy with things. I know there's a video going out when they drafted Brandon Ayuk where somebody's like, hey, man, this guy was so excited. He high-five Cap for the Ghosts or whatever. There was like nobody there, right? These moments are few and far between, and it's just so interesting that coach taking all of that on himself allows the players to go out there and play free and loose, knowing that each team is going to get their best, and so they're hyped up every time. It's just an interesting difference between the two teams' cultures, as it were.
Yeah. There was a comment here, William Roberts, we can win tomorrow. Let's don't make any turnovers and just play our game. That's exactly why the Cowboys lost that game. Maybe not exactly, but a big part. I mean, I keep seeing this Dak red zone interception over and over again on my timeline. He's dropping this ball into triple coverage. Like, what are you doing, Dak? And, I'm not going to say it because I'm going to end up jinxing Purdy, but let's just say he's not doing that and hasn't done that through this season. And it's very impressive so far. There was a question in here earlier. Does Christian McCaffrey break Jerry Rice's record of touchdowns in most consecutive games tomorrow? I believe he's at 12. 13 is the record. I think we can all agree we think he's going to break it, right? Mike, you were nodding yes?
12 is the record, which is what he's tied. 13 would give him the record. And I say yes, he will absolutely do it. If you guys have Christian McCaffrey, you put him in there. Kyle Shanahan is done not letting his guys achieve records. So yeah, he's gonna do it. Get it going. Get used to it too.
Yeah, agreed.
I agree as well. I think he's too often used to not get that. I mean, there's a reason why he's approaching that record. It's just his usage rate is so high, and he's so dynamic with the ball in his hands. I mean, he could have easily had 2 touchdowns last week. On that dot from Purdy. So he's I mean, he's far and away the offensive MVP on the 49ers. You'd have to think, man. I mean, if we take, who I think the true offensive MVP is and Trent Williams out of the equation, because, linemen hardly get any shine, but Trent Williams is a beast. It has to be Christian McCaffrey. I mean, skill player wise, he's right up there in the tops in the NFL. So that's bar none for me. I think he does it as well.
Agreed. And yeah, by the way, Ian Sharp, Cowboys penalties are constant. I think they had like 10 penalties for 113 yards last week or something crazy.
And by the way, let me add one more thing to this whole thing. If Christian McCaffrey does break the record, I bet you there's going to be no person happier in this world than Jerry Rice for him.
Yeah.
Because listen, Jerry Rice loves this team, and I love Jerry for that.
Yeah. Mike, were you saying something?
I don't.
Sorry, the Niners have plenty of penalties. Also, we shouldn't act like.
We have a lot of penalties.
Yeah,
our penalties.
I believe
are terrible.
we got to be a top 5 team with penalties, right? Let me see. Hold on.
Wait. Did you guys just see that? Dre Greenlaw got another unsportsmanlike conduct.
By the way, that one last week was complete BS. That unnecessary roughness penalty.
That one was weak. Yeah,
I saw John Chapman tweeted it out in slow-mo, and as he's hitting the player, they blow the whistle. I think he had already made contact with the Giants player, and then they start blowing the whistle and then throw the flag. So
yeah, but you can't tell people to play to the whistle and then penalize them for doing so. That's ridiculous.
Right, exactly. Yeah, and I was wrong. We're eighth in the league with penalties, but
hey, that's still a top 10 we don't want.
Eighth best or eighth worst?
No, 8th worst. Like,
okay,
that's a top 10 we don't want.
Yeah.
So let's get into
this.
That's
just, by the way, that's accepted penalties. That's not just flags thrown on the Niners, by the way.
Got it.
There's been plenty of offsetting ones as well.
Let's get into this. Nigel Crane, CMC will be used more, especially with Mitchell hurt. Guys, Elijah Mitchell, death, taxes, and a Mitchell knee injury are the only guarantees in life, because I believe it was Thursday or maybe it was yesterday.
It was Thursday.
It was Thursday. He pops up on the injury report with a knee injury that he banged up in practice. This man cannot have had more than 15 carries on the year, and he banged up his knee in practice, and now he's questionable, I believe, going into the game. So I have the injury report here. Dre Greenlaw's questionable with an ankle injury. Elijah Mitchell's questionable with a knee injury. Juwan Jennings is doubtful with the shin injury. Deebo Samuel is questionable with a rib and knee injury. And Demetrius Flanagan-Fowles is questionable with an ankle injury as well. Brandon Ayuk and Ambry Thomas and Trent also popped up. Trent was just a rest. Ayuk is the shoulder and Ambry with the knee, but they're all good to go, those 3. What the hell's going on with Elijah Mitchell? 1, and 2, do you think it's time to maybe see Jordan Mason elevated above Mitchell, or is the talent worth the constant injury headaches? What do you guys think? Matt, I think I know your answer, but what's your take?
Yeah, I'm pretty much out on Elijah Mitchell at this point. It's too much to. Again, you don't get more healthy with age, especially as a running back. And unlike some of the, I mean, how many people were saying we shouldn't have traded for Christian McCaffrey because he had a lot of injuries? At least Christian McCaffrey's were little things, right? Little knick-knack injury, rolled ankle here, a little hamstring strain there, or whatever. Elijah Mitchell had surgery on both of his MCLs last year, and now he's here with yet another knee injury. And his rookie season was injury plagued, despite the fact that he almost had 1,000 yards. And the injuries were the reason why he didn't get there. At this point, I mean, again, he hasn't looked super impressive running the ball anyway. He hasn't looked like he did before, the knee injuries. Jordan Mason, Elijah Mitchell, what's the difference other than the fact that Jordan Mason's going to be eligible to play? Mitchell has talent, but if you can't stay on the field, then what good is the talent that you have? And this is just yet another injury that it's not helpful. We've seen the guys that get the knock of being injury prone, and I think we gotta start. Maybe just the edge of that label has to go on Elijah Mitchell, and it's unfortunate because he does have talent. That's the sad thing. The 49ers were able to identify his talent. They were able to use that talent and kind of bring that out of him at the professional level. But these injuries have just curtailed his career. And it's really, really unfortunate to see. But if that's the case and you're not available, it's kind of on to the next one.
Mike, before you share your thoughts on Elijah Mitchell, Raphael wants to know what your game day meal is.
I don't have a dedicated meal this year. That's actually a superstition I'm trying to get out of, but mainly because I'm on this diet curbing shot. And so like I did order wings week 1. I ordered 20 of them because I was expecting to be eating them throughout the game. Literally took a bite and I was full. Like I was done. So I don't want to waste money on wings this year. I do know what I'm having tomorrow though. I have this big juicy bacon cheeseburger that I am dying to sink my teeth into. So that is being saved for the game. And I'm really, really looking forward to it. So it's changing day by day. I can't tell you what it's going to be, but that is a superstition that I'm looking to get away from this year. But if I need to, I will do an emergency order of wings. Don't worry. And as far as Elijah Mitchell goes, no, I mean, the injuries are what they are, and there's a part of me that says, all right, well, this is it for his 49ers career. However, when they get top tier production from a player that's often injured, the Niners love bringing those guys back on the minimal of salaries. And we saw it with Jason Verrett over and over and over and over. There was even a rumor that we were working out a Jason Verrett again just this past week, if I'm not mistaken. So there's a possibility. Running backs are already one of the cheaper positions on the offense, if not the cheapest. There's a possibility the Niners try to make him a little 2-year offer with a bunch of incentives in there and just sneak him onto the roster again. He knows the team, he knows the plays, and he's effective when healthy. I mean, if it's going to cost you next to nothing, they might actually put a flyer on him. Don't forget that they have the $40 million to play with.
Yeah, it's true. Randy Daytona, is this true or are you just joking around? He says Eli literally tripped on Tabor Pepper's Crocs. I'm hoping that's just a joke and that's not true. I would love to see more Jordan Mason. I think he looks explosive every time he gets in there. He always pops off a run for like 5-6 yards, and then Shanahan just puts him back on the bench and it's like, all right, thanks Jordan, you did your 1 carry for 7 yards. Have a good rest of your day. We'll see what it is, but this, I think we all agree this level of workload for Christian McCaffrey isn't sustainable. Would you guys agree with that? It's too much to span 17 games.
No,
Mike?
I don't necessarily think so. His usage rate with the 49ers is actually lower than what his usage rate was with the Panthers. So I don't think it's unsustainable at all. They don't use him on every play in terms of getting him the ball. He's just out there a lot. And a lot of times it's not like I'm the 2-down back. I occasionally catch passes, but also I'm going to be in there expecting to throw these heavy blocks all the time. A lot of times he's running routes. So again, I watch him run as well. And it's not like he's very, even when he is getting wrapped up, still very elusive. I very rarely see him take a big, just flush punishing hit. So I think that he can stay healthy. Looks like he's gotten his body in a good position to, not have a lot of those, again, injuries I talked about, the soft tissue, the flexibility injuries and things like that. It is sustainable. And you can't go into, we better not use him as much because he might get hurt. I think that mentality is a poverty mentality. I think that's a mentality that's going to lose you games. And if the guy gets hurt anyway, then what were you saving him for? So play Christian McCaffrey as much as Christian McCaffrey can be played. Again, you're not using him as much as Carolina was. He's had this, workload even higher before. With all the other weapons the 49ers have, I think they're fine with it.
Okay, Mike? Any additional thoughts?
Additional, he's the highest paid running back in the entire NFL for a reason, guys. 25, 30 touches a game. I mean, I don't think he's going to get to 30, but 25 touches a game is not out of the box. He's the highest paid for a reason. The Niners are done with the running back by committee. He should only not be on the field if he needs a breather. I'm all in. I'm all in.
Okay. All right. I like it. So we've read the 49ers injury report. Let's get into the Cardinals injury report. And that is Chris Barnes, linebacker, is questionable with a finger injury. Jonathan Ledbetter, defensive lineman, is out with a finger injury. Josh Woods, linebacker, is out with an ankle injury. Marquise Brown, wide receiver, is questionable with a thumb injury. Keontae Ingram, running back, questionable with a neck injury. James Conner was limited on Wednesday, but full participant Thursday and Friday with the back injury, so he'll be good to go. Paris Johnson, offensive lineman, questionable with an ankle injury. And Kelvin Beachum and Zayvon Collins, offensive lineman and linebacker, both popped up, but are listed as good to go, full participants in practice. I think the most notable ones, James Conner, Marquise Brown. Last time James Conner ran all over this 49ers team. I say last time that is that they whooped the 49ers in Santa Clara, not last year. What scares you about this Arizona Cardinals offense? I was expecting a lot more mobility from Daniel Jones last week. We didn't see that at all, but I'm worried maybe we'll see that tomorrow from Josh Dobbs. Matt, what are you most focused on taking away from the offense?
Yeah, I think the mobility of Josh Dobbs creates that extra dimensional problem. Marquise Brown is going to want to blow the top off the defense, but if you can keep Josh Dobbs between the tackles, I think that will go a long way into very much limiting what the Cardinals offense is going to be able to do. James Conner is a good-ish running back. He looks better than what Najee Harris has been doing in Pittsburgh, so you wonder if Pittsburgh would have liked to have him back. The 49ers defense, particularly with Javon Hargrave this year, is just so stout against the run. I'm more worried about that soft coverage that we've seen that allowed Matthew Stafford to really dice up underneath and keep extending drives for the Rams in that game. I could totally see that if the 49ers can't get home against Josh Dobbs in the pass rush, that this could turn into something like that. And it's better not to let this team hang around any longer than you need to. So limiting Joshua Dobbs' ability to get outside of the pocket is going to be paramount for the 49ers. And they have to get pressure on him and finish with sacks and getting him into second, third, and long situations.
Yeah. Agreed. Mike, what offensive, what piece of their offense, do the 49ers need to focus on stopping tomorrow? I'll ask you the same question.
James Conner. What did you say his injury was? I didn't hear the exact. I know you said he showed up on the report, but what was?
I can tell you right now, it is a back injury.
And the designation is questionable, right?
He has no designation. He was limited on Wednesday, full participant Thursday and Friday. And
so he's good.
Yeah.
Okay. So they just listed. Yeah, no. I am worried about him. I think he's a little bit more dynamic than what 49er fans are even willing to give him credit for. Wayne and I we did our face off on Friday, and we were comparing him to Christian McCaffrey. And I said, he's averaging almost as many yards per carry as Christian McCaffrey is. It's like 5.4, and I think Christian McCaffrey's like 5.7 or something. I don't remember the exact details. But the difference is that he doesn't have any of those 50, 60, or 70-yard runs. I think his long on the year is in the 20s. Like, he's getting it in the mud. Like, he's really out there getting those 5 a pop, with a bigger one here and there. And I think that he's a better pass catcher than what people want to give him credit for as well. And he's going to be Dobbs' best friend out there on that field. They don't have some star tight end that's going to go out there and really, really make a huge difference. And so when the check down is there for Dobbs to take, he's going to absolutely take advantage of it. I expect the Dobbs run plays. I know Matt was talking about containing him. I expect when he does run, it's going to be a lot of the times with Conner out in front of him. So that way, as he approaches the line, if the linebackers bear down on him, he'll chuck it over their head right to Conner. Boom, you got 7-8 yards easy, so he's the guy that I think we really, really have to focus on.
Yeah.
Oh, and by the way, I wanted to kind of deviate, but it's related. Do you guys expect Debo to play on tomorrow?
Yes, I do. I don't know why. I do.
I do too. I thought it was weird that immediately after the game, it was about the ribs, and then all of a sudden he showed up with some like knee thing in the middle of the week. I think these are just, you're getting to the midseason, everybody has something that hurts kind of thing. So,
Do you, Mike?
I do not. This feels so similar to the Brandon Ayuk situation. And then the new knee thing showed up midway through the week, like Wednesday, something like that, right? So I'm a little bit more concerned about that. I say with Ayuk coming back, because he was a game time decision on Thursday. I think that if it was a Sunday, and I think he would have absolutely have played. And I get it, Debo had the 10 days off, but you still had the ribs thing bothering him. Still, it was still listed, and then you add the knee to it. He's a little bit too physical of a player for my liking. I say maybe dress him, but don't use him if you don't have to.
And thinking about it, they have Dallas Sunday Night Football the following week. Maybe similar to what they did with BA last week, where they rest them specifically looking forward to the next game. But I don't know. But I guess let's just see what happens. I hate looking forward in the NFL.
My thing, I would be more worried if they listed him as doubtful like they have with Juwan Jennings, but he's listed as questionable. And to me, that's like kind of a sign that he's probably going to, even if it's diminished snap count, he's probably going to get out there and play. He's probably going to dress.
We got a super chat from our guy JP Hella Hard 2800. Niners Purdy 7, Cardinals 16. I don't know.
I have the translation. Don't worry, guys. So on Nothing But Niners, they call Purdy 30. Like Purdy will get you 30. So when he says Purdy 7, he means 37 to 16 for the Cardinals.
That is a Nothing But Niners translation right there.
Yeah,
I love it. Thank you, Mike.
You guys. Don't worry, JP. I got you. That's my dog right there.
All right. Yeah, the talk this week was trading for Pat Surtain from the Broncos. I don't think they're going to get rid of him. And I don't think the 49ers would give anything close to what they're asking. They're a rebuilding team with a superstar corner on their rookie contract. I think Sean Payton would be an absolute buffoon to get rid of Pat Surtain. That's my take, even though I would love the 49ers to do it. I want to talk about what we can expect for the 49ers offense tomorrow with or without Deebo Samuel. I think this is a big George Kittle game, at least in the end zone. Maybe not yards-wise, but in the end zone. Last time the 49ers played the Cardinals, January of 2023, he had 2 touchdowns. The game before that, which I believe was in Mexico City, he had 2 touchdowns. He had 1 touchdown in the game before that in November of 2021. And I think he's just due. Last week, we saw him on Thursday night have a breakout yards-wise right after we were kind of roasting him in the chat, saying he looked slow and old and kind of washed up. And then he went off and had 6 catches for 70 yards, whatever the hell he had. Who do you guys think has an offensive explosion? Maybe not, but you know what I mean. Who finds the end zone tomorrow for the 49ers? Other than CMC, since we all agreed, we think he finds the end zone. That's the easy one.
I'm going to surprise you guys. I'll get mine out the way. Ronnie Bell. I don't think Debo plays. They've already said that Jennings is doubtful. I think this is the moment we see 2, let me choose my words carefully, 2 good wide receivers on the field at the same time. And Ronnie Bell is going to reap some of those benefits. I think we expect Brandon Ayuk to do some things out there, but Ronnie Bell is going to be my guy because I think the Cardinals are going to focus on taking away Brandon Ayuk. And then boom, Ronnie Bell is going to go crazy.
Okay, I like that. Matt?
I think I'm kind of with you on George Kittle. George Kittle's knee killer, Budda Baker, is on injured reserve, so he's not going to play. I think that's a very important piece of information for George Kittle, who, I'm sure both of his knees were hurting looking at the schedule for each of these weeks. But I do think that Kittle has been surprisingly quiet, given that, I know he struggled early with the groin injury in terms of training camp, but he's been out there. He hasn't looked like it's slowed him down any. He's been the one 49er player, right, that hasn't had that breakout on offense. The other skill position players have, not counting the rookies like Ronnie Bell, but Debo had his game last week. The week before it was Christian McCaffrey. The week before that it was Brandon Ayuk. So each of these guys have gone through their turn, and I think that George Kittle is due. Every time I seem to think that I don't know, maybe this is the year that George Kittle kind of finally falls off the cliff or isn't the second or third or first best tight end in the NFL. What happened last year when Purdy came in? Kittle scored like 6 or 7 touchdowns in the last 4 or 5 weeks. So I would expect George Kittle to actually have a good game too. It feels like against this Cardinals defense, there's going to be room for George Kittle to get open as they try to focus on somebody like Christian McCaffrey or Brandon Ayuk. I think that they're a good defense in terms of they play hard, but it's a lot of young guys, and George Kittle's a veteran of the game. I think he's going to be able to exploit them for some big yards and probably a score or two.
Yeah. Agreed. I think it's just going to be that kind of game. I'm trying to pull up the prop for, because this is always such a tempting prop at my bookie, guys. Brock Purdy rushing touchdown. It's like this dude he's good for like one sneak on the goal line. It's just if the 49ers get in that situation, and it's always like plus 500 or something crazy like that. I don't think I can pull it up on my computer because I'm not logged in, but if you're ready,
well, while you're looking for it, I was going to say, while you're looking for it, I would be cautious on that one this week. The Eagles run that little booty push or whatever, tush push, I think is what they're calling it. So this is something that they practice against. Gannon is kind of familiar with that. He'll be ready. He'll tell his guys to get low and then send someone over the top. So just be cautious with that. But the other thing I wanted to say, another reason I don't think Debo, I know I'm going back to it. The Niners elevated Willie Snead. So that's something that I think we should really be paying attention to as well. So just wanted to throw that out.
That's a good point.
Sorry.
It's a good point. Yeah, tush push. I guess we'll see if we see it tomorrow. But it look, $5 for like a plus $600 odds. It might be worth it. You know, it might be worth it. That's all I'm saying, guys. Bet at your own risk.
Sorry, I missed Mike. What were you saying in terms of Willie Snead being promoted? You think Debo will or won't play?
I don't think he's going to play because I think they elevated him. First, I thought, oh well, maybe it was because of the Juwan Jennings thing, right? But if Ayuk is back, that replaces Jennings already. So
but they didn't
elevate another guy?
Because Ayuk was a game time decision. They didn't meet the deadline to elevate somebody. So for me, because they promoted Willie Snead and cornerback Kendall Sherfield, that indicates to me that they don't expect to be down 2 wide receivers, so that Debo's probably playing. Because if he wasn't, they would have elevated another wide receiver from the practice squad rather than the other corner. That's just me, though. I don't know. We're doing practice squad gymnastics over here. I would expect maybe if he's, limited snap count, I could see him coming in on important downs, but just kind of saving them for the important spots.
Yeah. Chat doesn't think Debo's going to play. I guess we'll see. I wouldn't be against keeping him on the sidelines for this week. This is a game, and again, I hate overlooking a team, but this is a game the 49ers should be able to beat without Debo Samuel.
See, to me, that's the mindset that gets you beat. If Debo has the ability to go, I think you try to get him to go.
Well, of course, yeah, of course.
I'm not just like, I don't mean like try to coerce Debo into playing. Like if Debo says, yeah, I think I can go, let him go because every game is important. And the mentality of we should just save him for XYZ opponent is a dangerous mentality to have because you never know that again, especially divisional games where they're always weird, right? You end up in a situation where it's like, damn, if we only had Debo out there for this one, right? And that could be the thing. I never like to play games as if like the guy's going to get injured or whatever. You're playing to, well, what if X happens? If your guy can go, like let him go. But I understand what you're saying. Like all things being equal, if you could control all the variables, maybe you save him for the Cowboys. But I don't think again, especially after Kyle played Christian McCaffrey, how far into that debacle against the Pittsburgh Steelers, I don't think he has that in him to take that type of, chance to not get out of here with a big victory.
All right. Pardon my wave. How many sacks will his defense total? I assume he's asking. That's a good question because Dobbs is mobile. So I don't know. Hopefully a couple. Hopefully a few.
If I had to put money on it, I would say 2, maybe 3. 2.5 is probably the line. I would say 3 maybe tops. And one of them would be like him scrambling and one of those diving shoelace tackles that happens at the line or right behind the line of scrimmage. So, I don't know. For whatever reason, I just don't think the Niners are going to end up with a lot of sacks this year. I really don't. I think it's going to be a down year for Bosa. And I'm not just saying that just because of how it started. I just think that teams are committed to trying to not let him wreck shop, which is in turn letting him wreck shop. But the guys on the other side have to really step it up now. So, and they've been doing so. But we'll see. We'll see.
I think that I agree with that. The book is out in terms of at least limiting the 49ers pass rush, and that's getting the ball out quickly. So any team that's going to be able to do that is going to be able to limit the amount of sacks that they're going to get. But I would actually think that this would be a week where they can get some. Joshua Dobbs, to me, is not a guy with overwhelming athleticism. They don't have overwhelming weapons. And despite what Dallas fans would have you believe, the Dallas Cowboys defense is nowhere near what the 49ers defense is, even when they had a healthy Trayvon Diggs. And they missed him against Arizona. So I think that I would put the total probably 4 sacks, but I do agree with Mike that 1 or 2 of those sacks are going to be coming because Joshua Dobbs is trying to extend the play with his leg and he gets caught from behind, especially with somebody as athletic as Nick Bosa or a Drake Jackson, where they can really come from behind and do some work. Even somebody like a Fred Warner who, is blitzing and ends up catching up to him. So 4 sacks for me in that.
Damn. All right. Question here from, I just had it up. Delvin Thomas, do you guys think our team could put up 70 points on any NFL team if we wanted to? We just saw Mike McDaniel's Dolphins put up 70 against the Broncos. Matt, you're already shaking your head. No, I'm not even done with the question. You don't think so?
No, I mean, there's a reason why it hasn't happened since, 1966 or whatever it was. It's a very rare thing. Only 4 teams have done it in the history of the NFL. So if it were that easy, then, everybody would be doing it. I think it's hard enough to put up 30 points. So what the 49ers have done with Brock Purdy as a starter, consistently putting up 30 is an achievement unto itself. I just think that was such a wild game and very unrealistic to expect the 49ers to be able to do that. Which is why I kind of agree with Mike. I think Mike McDaniel should have been like, screw this, I'm going for the record. Like, forget even tying 73. Let me go for another touchdown and put up 77. But yeah, I just don't think that. I mean, what other team are you going to see that has 2 running backs with 4 touchdowns apiece in a game?
Yeah,
it's just
crazy.
Such an anomaly that I just don't think it's realistic to even. 50 would be a great, an amazing game. We talk about 50 for a long time, right? Let alone 70, 20 more points than that.
Yeah. I mean, when you see Mike White out there airing out deep ball passes, like some shit went wrong. And I love that it was fucking Sean Payton when it was just a couple weeks ago. He was talking about how Nathaniel Hackett did the worst coaching performance in NFL history last season with the Broncos. And then he comes out and he has a historic ass whooping. That ass whooping's going in the record books. Like, people are going to flip to that page and see Sean Payton got his ass handed to him by this little dweeb Mike McDaniel. And I love Mike McDaniel, but he's this little nerd and, barely, knows a lot about football, but can barely probably bench press. And he went over there and whooped the hell out of you, dude. Like, that's embarrassing.
I agree. That's exactly why I wanted them to kick that field goal. Now you cement it as the most points scored in a regular season game. You cement it and it is permanently there. I don't want to have to scroll through the record and say, oh, well, who's second place? Like, no, show me the one and boom, there's Sean Payton's team right there. Absolutely.
Perfection.
Oh, man, I would have loved it. And when it comes to but my answer is very similar to Matt. No, I don't think so. Last year, the team that scored the most points per game was the Kansas City Chiefs, and they were at 29.2. The Niners are 30 points a game right now, which is already really, really high. That's really good. The year that Kyle Shanahan had the MVP year with Matt Ryan, they weren't putting up 30-plus points a game. So, and by the way, the Niners are doing that and admitting that they're leaving a lot on the field, but it was still 6 scoring drives, no matter how you split it up. 3 field goals and 3 touchdowns are what the Niners are doing week in and week out. Even if all of those were touchdowns, I'm no mathematician here, but I think 7 times 6 is only 42. So no, it's not happening, guys. Like, I just don't think that happens. No.
This comment's fucking hilarious from Randy Daytona. Broncos country, let's hide.
But I bet you Sean Payton wishes he was back at NBC doing Sunday Night Football still. Yeah. That was embarrassing. You go to your wife and she was like, "How was the game today, honey?" And he's like, "Offense scored 20. Wow, that's great. Yeah, but we lost by 50."
Yeah. Janky, he talked shit about Tua too. Yeah, he said when he was back on Fox, I believe, I wouldn't be surprised to see Tua benched by midway next season or something like that. And then Tua goes in and lights your ass up, man. Yeah, Randy Daytona. This is how people wanted to replace Kyle with. We saw this all of last year going into this year. Kyle needs to be held accountable. We didn't even talk about this. They got an extension on Friday after last week, Kyle and John. Real quick, does this likely equal the end of Adam Peters' tenure with the 49ers? Do you think that was the only way that they possibly could have kept him, was with the possible potential of giving him the GM position? And now that Lynch was just extended as GM, do you think we could all but kiss Peters goodbye because he's going to be GM elsewhere?
I don't necessarily think so, because Lynch got a contract extension, but all they got to do is kick Lynch upstairs and promote Adam Peters, right? All they got to do is make Lynch president of football operations, like the old Carmen policy position. And then all of a sudden, okay, now we can promote Adam Peters. If you promote Adam Peters, you can then, block him from other moves or whatever. There's ways around it. But it'll be interesting to see if somebody makes a heavy play for Adam Peters in the meanwhile, because I personally think that Adam Peters is really the juice behind where they find these late round gems.
Does anybody know if he's any sort of minority so we can get some extra picks? I'm just kidding.
It's going to come out that he's like 1/16 Native American, and so we're going to get it.
Look, it's, in my opinion, a stupid rule, but let's take advantage of it while we can, Oh, my bad. I meant to make that scrolling. All right.
I don't think it's a stupid rule. I thought it was necessary to kind of like incentivize teams to do it, but I mean, they tried it with the Rooney Rule, that wasn't working. So now it's like, hey, let's give them a little bit of extra juice here. You know what I'm saying? Let's give them a little bit of extra juice to really do it, because the Rooney Rule clearly wasn't working. And so
I think it would have worked eventually. I don't think that. I get where they're coming from, but I think at this point we can kind of maybe do away with that stuff, right? Because now what's the incentive to hire anything? If you're a team, right, why wouldn't you hire anything but minority hires in the hopes that people keep taking them from you so that you can keep, you know what I mean? Like,
well, no, but you have to be a good team. You can have an entire minority roster, but if your team is 0-17, no one's going to want any of those guys, except Cleveland, who loved Hugh Jackson for some reason.
Yeah.
Well, apparently the 49ers loved him enough to almost make him head coach before Kyle Shanahan got hired. I don't know if you remember that crazy little period of time. That guy on Twitter said for sure it was a done deal, Hugh Jackson to the 49ers. We got a super chat from our guy, Gray Fox 198. Sean Payton should be coaching after Bountygate. That motherfucker had his DC wanted to leave Gore like a vegetable. If I was McDaniel, I would have scored 100. People just forget this shit. Like, this dude was out here putting price tags, or at the very least, allowing his coach to put price tags on other players and their physical health. And everybody was just like, oh, well, he got suspended, like he got his punishment. So what? I say, fuck this guy. Like, He should be, I agree. He shouldn't be in the NFL. If they're trying to suspend players 2 years for gambling on a game that they're playing in, this dude should have like a lifetime ban for trying to turn somebody's brain into mush.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's one aspect of it. I also think that, people are built up. They have a reputation that's built up, and sometimes they don't always live to the hype. Urban Meyer in college football coming to the pros being a prime example. Sean Payton, I think we can safely say, relied a lot on the otherworldly Hall of Fame talents of Drew Brees. Yeah. And that carried him very far. Drew Brees, and then you have people like Joe Horn and Deuce McAllister and players like that were just very, very good. Sorry, I don't know what the GM's name was for the New Orleans Saints, but this guy seemed to identify really good talent and put it there for him. I can't remember his name. It's really escaping me right now. But
Mickey Loomis, is he
Mickey
the owner?
Mickey Loomis is the owner.
Oh, okay,
Does he do the general managing as well? All I know is whoever put the talent together for that team.
It is Loomis.
Job.
Yeah. He's the GM.
So I think that Sean Payton was a good coordinator with the Cowboys, I guess, but he really lucked out in the fact that, people didn't want Drew Brees, who was famously probably going to sign with Miami before Miami shied away because of Drew Brees' labrum injury that he suffered when he was with the Chargers. Chargers drafted Phillip Rivers and wanted to replace him. It worked out really well for New Orleans, and the rest is history there. But I think that, you see with Russell Wilson, and it's not like the Broncos have a bunch of bums on their team. They do have talent. It's just not working out for whatever reason. And I think that reason is that Sean Payton is very confrontational and combative. And that might work with somebody like Drew Brees, who comes across as a very humble, quiet leader who's willing to go out there and just, nose to the grindstone, a very competitive, almost Tom Brady-like in his approach to wanting to win the game. But with a guy like Russell Wilson, who's, let's face it, Russell Wilson's a weird dude, and he's just different. And that doesn't work with those type of guys. So it's no wonder it's not working. But I don't think you can just hang up, 70 on anybody in any given week. It is what it is. But 49ers are really good. I don't think this 49ers team will score 70 points for a long, long time if they ever do.
Yeah. It was hilarious hearing the reports that Sean Payton told Russell to stop kissing babies and shit. He's like, we're trying to win football games. Stop acting like a politician out there kissing babies in front of the cameras. I don't know. If Denver was a serious organization, somebody has to get fired after that debacle. I don't care if it's your DC. I don't care who it is. If I'm that owner, I want somebody's name on a list Monday morning, because that shit's just not acceptable. That's like Pop Warner shit. That's like high school level, elite high school beating up on like a JV high school. Mike, you seem confused, but I don't understand how you allow a team to put up 70 on you and you just, we're going to go back and look at the film and watch the game plan and prepare for week. It's like, that's a historic loss. I'm sorry. We didn't mean to get sidetracked into this Denver shit, but I'm just amazed that they're just carrying on.
I don't want to say it, but I'm going to say it anyway. And I agree with everything you just said. But I think we discussed on the show, maybe it wasn't the show and it was another one, someone should have been fired from the 49ers front office for the Trey Lance trade up in 4 games and he's gone. That was a historically bad move as well. But I if it wasn't this show, whatever show I was on, I got so much pushback for that take. And then you say that was one game. It was just one game. It's a fluke. It's never going to happen again. Like, I don't know. If it was this show, I'm just looking at you guys a little side eye, like, all right, now we want to fire people, but we didn't want to do it before. Okay.
I don't think it was this show, but we definitely did discuss people calling for somebody to get fired. Specifically Kyle and John.
Here's the difference if we ever did discuss this, and I think I've touched on this before, is that people who want Kyle Shanahan to be fired for the Trey Lance thing are neglecting to recognize that the 49ers made the NFC Championship game twice with Trey Lance sitting on the bench. So it's a non-consequential move in the grand scheme of things because the team is successful. Denver Broncos look terrible. They look like they're in the running for Caleb Williams, despite the fact that they're going to be paying Russell Wilson hundreds of millions of dollars or whatever for the next 4 years.
There's no
cap relief to get out of from under it. That's the difference, right? Kyle Shanahan has a proven track record with this team. Sean Payton's living off of borrowed time. And when I say like, oh, somebody needs to get fired, and when Zach says that, it's more of like a tongue-in-cheek, like, hey, some shit's not working. And if they don't get it together quick, it's going to be a one and done for those type of guys because this team looks terrible.
Now, Mike, if it happens again, say the Broncos go out and they play the Bears, so it's highly unlikely. Let's say Justin Fields has his
7 touchdowns.
Yeah, 7 touchdowns, 3 on the ground, 4 in the air, and they put up 50-plus points again. Then would you say, all right, is it Vance Joseph calling the plays for that defense? All right, Vance, it's been great knowing you. Have a safe flight out of Mile High. Take care.
No, I'm not against anybody being held accountable. A position coach or something, right? Like, find someone to be the fall guy. I'm all
That's
for
what I'm saying.
I never wanted Kyle or John or Peters gone, but whoever it was that convinced you Trey Lance was the guy, and you have seen enough through 3 seasons to know that he's not him. Someone that's all I was saying. That was my point. I'm not one of those fans that want Kyle gone. I'm not one of those fans that want John Lynch going either. I'm not that guy. But I thought someone should have been held accountable. That's all my point was.
Yeah. I think my take on that, and we won't harp on this too long, but it didn't really matter in the grand scheme of things. Now, we'll see in a couple of years whether or not having those first rounders on the roster will impact them long term. But in the short term, not having Trey Lance as an active player or not having him work out did not set the 49ers back in any way visible. So I think that's why they were above, or I don't want to say above. That's why they're okay and protected from any sort of hot seat or, any of the accountability bullshit, hence their extensions. All right, let's get into this question, back to this team at the very least. Do we think Niners versus Dolphins Super Bowl? And I just want to preface this by saying the Dolphins looked equally as good in the first quarter of the season last year. And then the wheels fell off the bus, like Tua gets concussed. Everybody's breaking down and hurt. So let's pump the brakes to talk about Super Bowl. The 49ers, I think last year started out 1-2 and got to, 3-4, something like that. But let's just say these two teams continue on this trajectory. Could you guys see this in February?
I mean, if they continued on this trajectory, sure. But very rarely in the NFL are the best team in the NFC and the best team in the AFC still that from week 3 all the way through the end of the season. So it's very possible they both have the talent to be really, really good. But again, like you said, Dolphins looked great last year before injuries. The Niners looked well on their way to winning the Super Bowl before, that unfortunate injury to Brock Purdy. It's hard to win championships in the NFL. That's why I think anybody who says, oh, this has to be Super Bowl or bust or your season is not worth anything, those people are just unrealistic. And it's just it's hard for me to get down with that type of mentality, because for me, if a team's making the playoffs every year, that means you have a chance every year. And it's almost better, not better, but to win a Super Bowl requires talent and luck as well. There's never a Super Bowl champion that didn't have any sort of luck on their side, right? They all had something break their way. So if you're in contention every year, eventually luck will be on your side and you'll win a championship. So I think it's really hard to say after 3 games that, oh yeah, these teams are definitely going to be there. But I could see that if they both continued as they look right now, sure, they could both be there.
Yeah. Mike, anything to add?
Yeah, I would personally like to see it. If there is a script in the NFL, you guys know why Brock Purdy wears 13, right?
Dan Marino.
It's Dan Marino, right? I mean, the story, it's all there. Dan
and
Marino,
Mike McDaniel from the Kyle Shanahan tree.
Yeah, I mean, it was, the stories are all right there. However,
Kyle this week, right? Kyle this week coming out and saying, "Oh yeah, we steal stuff from their playbook."
Yeah.
Cheat motion.
Yep. It's all right there. I mean, the headlines would write themselves at this point, and it's only week 3. But I just feel like I pumped the brakes on the Miami hype. Back to what both of you guys said. They start hot, and that's cool. There has to be a negative side to putting out so many good plays. Right? Like I think there's a reason Kyle pulls back after he feels he's got a comfortable lead and kind of just starts running between the tackles to get time off the clock and go home, right? He seems to be very reserved with how much of what he's going to show throughout the regular season. And then we still sometimes offensively struggle in the postseason. So, and that's without showing everything. I want to see how it plays out. But I'm not going with Miami in the Super Bowl yet. I reserve the right to change my mind. I know people are going to hold me to it right now from today, but I reserve the right to change my mind later.
Randy Daytona, wasn't Miami the hottest team when we played them? Correct. I think they had just won like 5 or 6 straight games. It was a hell of a matchup going into that game. Do you guys, off the top of your head, would you say Miami with this high-scoring, fast-powered offense, do they have a high time of possession? Without looking it up, would you think they rank at the top of the league in time of possession? They rank better than the 49ers time of possession. 49ers are 4th with 34 minutes, 27 seconds time of possession averaging, and the Dolphins rank 3rd with 35 minutes and 37 seconds. They're a 6-minute increase from last year. Now, it's still early. It's only been 3 games, but it's still really impressive.
And it was also, you have to factor in, because it's only 3 games, I am willing to bet a crazy amount of money that Denver team couldn't do anything, And so the time of possession in that game was probably like 42 minutes to 18 or something like that. Like, I have no idea what it was, but that's got to skew the numbers. I have no idea what it was. But Miami also scores quickly. I mean, we remember when we played them, opening play, right? Boom, they scored in 7 seconds, right? Yeah, it's a scoring drive at 7 seconds, but then what they do the rest of that game. And so I think that's where it all kind of starts to break down. It'll level out later.
It was a lot more even than you thought. Go ahead.
Miami's time of possession was 33 minutes, 21 seconds.
Yeah. And
they were just scoring so fast, though. That's the problem, is that they were scoring so fast. Yeah. The Dolphins ran like an NFL normal amount of plays in that game. They ran 71 plays, but had 726 total yards of offense. They were averaging 10 point whatever yards per play. So everything was just moving and working down the field. So then they were getting off the field quicker. And that's why I fell into the recency bias and was like, oh yeah, they probably score real quick all the time. But I've watched all 3 Dolphins games because my wife is a fan. And I know sometimes it's kind of a slog and they'll have the 14 play drives or whatever.
All right, let's get back to this game. All right, before we do, who's winning Bills Miami? It's in Buffalo, I believe.
I'm going to take the Dolphins on the road, mainly because it's not poor weather in Buffalo yet. But that it's going to be a close game either way. I think that's going to be probably the best game tomorrow. By the way, everybody, if you're not aware, only thing that sucks about being a West Coast fan, Atlanta and Jacksonville play in London tomorrow. Football starts at 6:30 a.m. Pacific time. Mike, you get a little reprieve, 9:30 a.m. Eastern. But yeah, football literally all day tomorrow. I'm excited.
I'm going to take the Bills for the upset, just because you got the Hive, the 70-point game. I do think that those guys are a little bit more grounded over there in Miami, but I think there's a bit of desperation, and you got to remember that it's a division game. A lot of people forget that part when they think of those teams, but it is a division game. There's a lot more desperation over there in Buffalo. They're starting to feel some heat, so I'm going to give the nod to Buffalo by 2. Buffalo by 2.
Is Buffalo favored? Who's favored in this game?
I would have to imagine Miami's got like a 3 or 4 point in their favor.
Buffalo favored by 2.5.
Really?
You know what? Though Buffalo 2.5 at home is almost like Miami being favored by a half point, because you typically get 3 for being the home team.
Right.
So it's almost a pick'em game.
I'm taking Buffalo. I think they're going to prove they're still the big brothers in this division. And they've heard a lot of talk about Miami this year and last year. That game close to Christmas, don't remember exactly when it was, in Buffalo was one of the best games I've seen between these two teams. I think it's going to be some crazy shootout, like 38-35 Buffalo wins. But I've missed on like 90% of my bets, so I would take Miami in this game if I were you guys. All right, let's get back to this Niners team. Since I'm waiting to see if I should start Debo, we'll see. We will definitely see.
Even if he plays, he's going to be limited, right? Like, so I don't think Debo's going back-to-back weeks the way that he did. If you have a solid option to replace him with Sin, I would just play the odds. I'd be surprised if he even played, but if he does suit up, I don't think he's going to be the focal point for the offense. I just wouldn't do it.
We're going to get into our final score predictions, offensive and defensive MVP, but we got to pay the bills first, so we'll be right back. Just want to take a second to thank today's sponsor, MyBookie. As a bettor, you demand perfection, and MyBookie delivers. NFL, college football, and a brand new cash out system gives you options to bet and win all season long. The first 2 legs of your parlay hit, cash out early and use the funds on another bet. Or you could let it ride for the chance of a bigger payday. Join the MyBookie family for a season filled with odds boosts, free bets, and super contests. To get started, all you got to do is super simple. Go to mybookie.ag right now and register for an account for free. That's right, it's free. And whenever it is you're ready to make your first deposit, just use promo code HIVE. It's right here on the screen, HIVE, to grab a welcome bonus on the house. That's our gift to you for being a part of the 49ers Hive family. That's promo code HIVE, HIVE to claim your deposit bonus. And for a limited time, you also get a free chip to use in the MyBookie casino. You can bet anything, anytime, anywhere with MyBookie. Now let's get back to the show. All right, guys, go take advantage of that right now. Man, I hate hearing my own voice. It just drives something down the back of my spine. I don't know what it is.
There's a psychological reason for that. I think most people actually don't like the sound of their own voice.
That's weird.
I know the reason. I actually know the reason.
Please.
You guys want to hear it? So when we speak naturally, there's extra vibrations, the teeth clicking and things like that we feel and hear in our head. And so when you play back your audio, it sounds like you, but not like you. And so it bothers you because you don't have the vibrations in your head the same way as when you receive the audio.
Gotcha. So it's the difference between what you hear when you're speaking versus what you hear when you're recorded. It's
Exactly.
like a distance between what you're expecting to hear when you're listening to your recording.
Yep.
That makes sense.
It's a trip. All right. Let's get into this Niners-Cardinals game. 49ers at home, favored by 14. Let's start on offense. Offensive MVP. I'm going to go first. And I kind of already gave it away earlier, but I'm taking George Kittle. I think he's going to go off. I know I said earlier he finds the end zone. I think he finds it twice. I think this is like a George Kittle, 6 receptions, 87 yards, 2 touchdowns type of game. Matt, who do you got? Offensive MVP.
Yeah, I'm gonna obviously I don't want to take what you're, gonna say. So in that regard, I'm gonna go with George Kittle can't go off if Brock Purdy doesn't go off. So I'm gonna go with Brock Purdy. I think he has another 2 touchdown passes. I think you should have taken that plus 500 prop bet, Zach. I think he's also going to have a rushing touchdown as well. Might not be on the sneak. I think it could be a play where it's like a rollout on, the 5 or the 6 yard line. He doesn't see anything, and that short area burst comes into effect, and he is able to run one in. So Brock Purdy, 3 total touchdowns tomorrow.
All right, Mike.
I am going to go with Brandon Ayuk, actually. I think that he has a multiple touchdown game. I also think Ronnie Bell does too, but here's the difference. I think Brandon Ayuk gets one on the ground. I think that they end up doing a toss to him and he just takes off and gets it in the end zone on the ground. He's going to be the 3rd down guy in this game with Jawan Jennings being out. Look for Brandon Ayuk to show everybody why he is WR1.
I love it. 49ers throwback, Ronnie Bell. What's up, Matt? Oh, were you saying wide receiver 1?
Yeah, I was doing the Roman Reigns, like we to ones, the bloodline.
Yeah.
That's what it is. He is the best wide receiver on the 49ers for sure. But I do love that people are coming around on my Michigan man, Ronnie Bell. I'm very, very excited for you. That dude works so hard, and he does have talent. So I'm excited for him to, show why he should have been probably drafted higher than he was. But I'm very thankful the 49ers have him because I think they're going to use him to his maximum ability.
Yeah. I mean, I can't think of any other teams starting quarterback, 7th round pick, and a potential, playmaker wide receiver in Ronnie Bell. I'm not going to say he's starting, number 1 receiver because he's not that on this team. But if he's a role player, that's even amazing because usually after the 5th round pick, it's all crapshoot.
George Kittle, 5th round pick.
Yeah. Yep.
Trent Williams was – what was Trent Williams? He was a later round pick too, wasn't he?
I don't know. Top of my head.
Did you say Trent Williams?
Yeah. What was Trent Williams drafted? Maybe I'm thinking
first round
got
pick.
him for a 5th.
But
right?
we got him for a 3rd and a 5th. Yeah. We used our 3rd and 5th to get him. So that's cool.
4th overall.
You to say something.
Oh,
I don't remember.
never mind. He was definitely highly drafted.
Ronnie Bell, 7th round, 7th rounder. Were you saying anything about that, Mike?
Oh, yeah. And that's why John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan don't get fired after the Trey Lance debacle.
I love this from Randy Daytona. Yo quiero Ronnie Bell. It's like the old Taco Bell saying. That's perfect. Ronnie Bell's dad is a wide receiver coach. Makes sense. All right. Defensive MVP. Matt, I already know yours, so I'm going to go first. Defensive MVP. I'm going to go with Fred. I think Fred Warner. I don't know if he gets an interception, but I'm going to say he's involved in an interception. We've seen him a couple times already this year tip up a ball. Hufanga comes along and picks it. I'm going to say Fred has a hell of a game. He, for some reason, I don't know if it's because he's a linebacker and edge and pass rush is the sexy position right now on defense. he's playing as good at his position as any of these other players are playing at their position. TJ Watt, Micah Parsons, who else am I forgetting? Obviously Nick Bosa, but like these top deep Myles Garrett, Fred Warner is as good of a linebacker as these players are at pass rushers. And for some reason, he's not getting the love for Defensive Player of the Year. I think Fred Warner has a hell of a game tomorrow. Matt, go ahead and hit us with the old regular.
Nick Bosa, 3 sacks and a forced fumble, baby. It's going to happen at some point. It already happened in real life once. I wasn't there, so to me, it didn't happen. I'm just going to keep it going. And it's a tradition. Ever since I started doing this, the 49ers have been good, so I'm just going to keep the train rolling as long as possible.
Okay, Mike.
Javon Hargrave, baby. I'm going to say the beast in the middle, man, coming from the East. He's going to go crazy tomorrow, disruptive in the run game, and a couple of pressures that are going to force some untimely throws. Your interception of Fred Warner is going to be because of my man, JH.
Playing against his old DC in Jonathan Gannon. So I like that. All right. Final score predictions. And guys, if you're new here, comment them in the chat. If you get the final score prediction right, we'll send you some merch. It has to be before the game starts, though. So you can't come back afterwards when it's 5 minutes left of the game and comment before the game starts. And you can tweet them at us as well if you're watching this after the show's ended. Our handles are on the screen. You can tweet them at the podcast at RGS Pod, at 49ers Hive, any of us individually. Tweet your score predictions. We'd love to see somebody get them right. I'm going to go 49ers, and I think they break the tradition 31-14. I think they cover. Matt, who do you got?
I got the 49ers 34-13. I just don't believe a lot in what the Arizona Cardinals are doing. I think the 49ers, again, are focused on Arizona because Arizona went in there and punched Dallas in the mouth. And I know that the 49ers would love nothing more than to go into that matchup week 5 against the Cowboys with bragging rights against a common opponent. I think that would even gas them up more for that game. 34-13 49ers.
All right.
I'm going to go with 34-22, all mathematically explainable. Instead of getting 3 touchdowns and 3 field goals, it's going to be 4 touchdowns and 2 field goals. Is my math right? 28 and 6, 34. Yes, 34-22. And the 22 is a weird thing, but I got a weird feeling that there's going to be some goofy kind of score from somewhere. I don't know. So
they're going to go for 2 at the end. It's going to be 34-14. They get a touchdown, get the 2-point conversion. There you go, Mike. I got you.
Wait. What is that for the spread? 34-22. They would cover that way, right? Uh-oh.
Nope. 34-22. That's a 12-point. So the Cardinals will cover.
The Cardinals will cover that way. Yep.
I could see it. And it would be on the 2-point conversion, of course. Oh, that's hilarious. All right. Before we wrap up, you know how we do chat pack time. And I am a good host, and I picked this one out ahead of time. Chat pack. And you guys comment your answers in the chat. We'd love to hear them. What is one piece of advice that you wish you could pass along to everyone else? There's so many things I wish everybody else could be told. Get off your phone at stoplights. Sorry, go ahead, Matt. Do you have one already?
No. Go for it.
Okay. I was just thinking off the top of my head. I have a really good one, but man, nothing bugs me more than seeing that light turn green and 5 seconds going by before somebody takes off because they're on their damn phone. Not to mention how dangerous it is when you're actually driving, but gosh, one piece of advice. There's a word for this, and maybe it's like in a foreign language that's transferred to English that I don't really know. But it's like the realization that everybody else is living lives as deep and problematic and, full of questions and wonders and intuitions and inspirations as yourself. Like, you ever walk down the street and just think like everybody around me has an entire life going on that's as vibrant as my own. And I think people forget that, like when you're out and you're, just some asshole cut me off. Like that's all that person is to you. But it's like, well, he's got his own life, like there's a real person there. So I think people forget to treat other people like human beings sometimes. So that would be my advice. Remember, everybody's human and they're all living a life just like you. Maybe that's too deep.
All right. I would go with the fact that if you want to achieve something in life, motivation is not enough. Motivation is fleeting. Motivation comes and goes. Discipline and effort are what going to get you there. You got to do stuff when you don't want to do it if you're ever going to be successful at it. And it's easy to lose yourself in the moment, right? Like, I'm going to get in shape today, or I'm going to finish this college paper, or this and this and that. And that motivation waxes and wanes even over the course of a day, right? But it's a disciplined mindset. It's a work ethic that it's going to allow you to achieve the things that once you start, you see it through to the end, even when your motivation isn't there for you to want to do that. And I think where a lot of people get in trouble and kind of don't have the success that they are capable of is because they're not willing to do what's necessary, the not fun stuff to get there.
I like that. Mike?
Yeah, man. Mine is gonna come. I heard it last night, so I figured I'd share it here. Wu-Tang Clan ain't nothing to fuck with. I'm kidding. That's not the one. My man's gonna throw something at me because he's mad he wasn't at the show. I'm sorry. No, all jokes aside, actually, I was talking to these gentlemen here tonight, and I had this epiphany. I can't wait to go home and tell it to my daughter. No matter what it is that you're doing, fall in love with the process and not the results, and everything will be better.
Okay. I love that. All right, guys. Thank you very much for tuning into this episode of the Red Gold Standard Podcast. If you have not already, hit like, hit subscribe. It helps more than you think. If you're watching this after it's aired, leave a comment. Comment your favorite meal, your game day meal. I don't give a shit. Just comment something. Comment a letter. Help with the algorithm. We appreciate it. Also, our podcast on X, I still keep wanting to say Twitter, on X is almost at 1,000 followers. It would really mean a lot to us if we can get to 1,000. Go over there, RGS Pod. Hit follow. We appreciate you guys. You can follow 49ers Hive. We're on all the platforms, all the cool kids. We're on TikTok. We're on Instagram. I think somebody runs a Facebook for us. I'm not quite sure. But at the very least, TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, X, I should say. Thank you, everybody, for following us everywhere. Mike, I'm sure the folks know where to find you. Go ahead and plug in case they don't.
I will see you guys tomorrow. Patreon.com/NB9ERS. Be there or be square, baby.
Okay. All right. I love it. Matt, you want to carry us out?
Absolutely. Mike, thank you for joining us as always. Love having you on the show. Zach, the host with the most, always carrying us through the day. We appreciate both you guys. We appreciate everybody that's been here. We love having you guys here to talk 49ers football. Winnable game. Let's defend the home turf. Get out of there healthy. And then on to the next one. Can't wait for tomorrow. Full day of football. So until then, for Zach, for Mike, for myself, go Niners.